I actually don't have a favorite spray. I have a favorite in that it is spray.
Welcome to Baking with Frank. Frank Rush was a baker at the turn of the 20th century at the Uffelman Baking Company in Cincinnati, and then at his own bakery in Newport, Kentucky. Frank was also my great grandfather. Through his handwritten batch sized recipe book, I'm breaking down his recipes and getting to know him better. I'm Tom Mattingly, and this is Baking with Frank.
Welcome back to Baking with Frank. So this week, we are going back to our friend Emil Brown, 1903 cookbook that Frank owned. Frank actually wrote in it several times and marked different recipes, some with pencil, some with red pencil, some with ink. And there are finger marks all over the book. So this clearly is something Frank used quite a bit. But we're also highlighting more of a family recipe. Not that anyone I know in the family's made it, but we grew up eating, there we go, B&M brown bread, Boston brown bread. Mom and Dad always had it in the house when we lived in Cincinnati. When we moved away, it was harder to get, but would eat slices of it with cream cheese. My aunt remembers doing the same thing. My grandma remembered doing the same thing. And as I was looking for this recipe, because I remembered seeing it in the book, we had friends coming over, we were going out to dinner, who walked in and without prompting mentioned brown bread. So clearly, a ubiquitous thing in Cincinnati, despite it being Boston brown bread. So we're going to try this recipe. Now, to do that, we will need, get that out of the way. Come on. We will need 4 ounces of cornmeal, yellow cornmeal, right there, and 3 ounces of rye meal. I think that's this one. Yeah, that's that one. 3 ounces of rye meal. Now, I will confess, wait, look at me. I will confess that this said dark rye meal. It actually said pumpernickel, I think. And I couldn't find pumpernickel, so I'm just using the rye that I had. So, we're going to work through it. All right, wait, that might be too far. All right, and 4 ounces of wheat flour. I will further confess, wait, look at me, that the recipe had graham flour in it. Graham flour was going to take forever to get here. And as I looked this up, turns out that, graham's part of the wheat, and most recipes, modern recipes, just use wheat flour. So we're using wheat flour. All right. We're going to mix those together and add to it 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. No, sorry, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda for a total of 3/4 of a teaspoon of leavening. Put all that in there, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Just give that a good mix. Now, of course, this started out with a pint of cornmeal, a 1/2 pint of rye, blah, 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 right? They were clearly trying to make more than one loaf. I'm only trying to make one loaf. All right, now, we are going to take 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk and 1/2 cup of molasses. I'm going to mix those together. Get as much of that molasses out as I can. I actually did spray this before I got on here in the hope that more of it would come out, but here we are. And we're going to mix these two together. Oh, you know what? There's just a little bit in there. You know what? Just because waste not, want not, right? Get that last little bit out. Just give that a quick mix. Get everything incorporated. And we're going to add part A to part B. I'm not sure which one's A and which one's B, but we're just mixing them. Now, if you haven't had brown bread, it is fairly sweet. A very unique, not even a molasses flavor, but I would call it more of an old world flavor because it's not overly sweet. It's not savory like a normal bread would be, but it's certainly not the sweet bread you're used to. All right, I think that's mixed well enough. Get that out of the way. Taking an 8-inch pan, 8.5-inch pan, and using our favorite spray here. I actually don't have a favorite spray. I have a favorite in that it is spray. So, there you go. Makes my life easier. And in the pan we get everybody in the pan. Come on. All right, let's get the last little bit of this out of here. Spread that out. I have no idea how much this will rise. So, there. We are preheating, have preheated the oven to 325. That looks good. My understanding is you can also make this with yeast. I've chosen not to in this case, obviously. But a Mills book points out that you make it exactly the same way except substitute yeast. Tough. All right, it's off my hand here. Now these can also be steamed breads. Let's cover that again. These can also be steamed breads. So you could put them in the can, just like the B&M can, and steam them to cook them on the stovetop. What I have seen is that most people who bake it at home just bake it at home because it's easier and faster. So that's what we're doing. All right, so let me get this out of the way. We got space to work here. And we are going to take some foil that is magically the same size as the top of the thing. Do a little baking spray on that. Fold down the corners just like that. Put a rubber band on and hope that doesn't pop in the oven. I don't think it will. And we're going to put this in the oven for an hour and then come back and take the foil off. 325. While I'm doing that, you can hit the like button and the follow button and the call your grandma button, because call your grandma. You really should. Okay. So 1 hour at 325. I'm going to do this with my bare hands. We're going to uncover it. It smells really darn good. And put it back in for another 10 minutes. I expected it would rise more, but you know what? I'm not mad. All right, so here's where we are. A little more brick-like than, well, I was going to say that I'm used to, but I've never seen it this way before. So it could be perfectly normal. So we're going to go with flavor. It's dense, like the original. Smells good. Of course, we can't have it without cream cheese because every one of my ancestors would come smack me, both living and dead. All right, let's give it a run. Tastes like brown bread. It's malty, not molassesy at all. Certainly lighter than what I would have gotten out of the can. But I'm not mad at that. I'm still not a huge fan, to be clear. But hey, we can make it if we need it.